All right, here we go.
Okay.
So, welcome to Security Guy Radio, Black Hat USA 2016. What's your name, sir?
Thank you, Chuck. My name is Jim Kent.
And what's the name of your company?
My company is Nuix.
Now, what does Nuix do exactly?
Nuix it's an organization that is together that really is about protecting and enable the digital world we live in for our families. So we come from a very deep heritage of investigative software and technologies, really getting clarity and getting depth of data so that we can tell a story. You know, you can't fight that enemy you cannot see.
Right.
We allow you to see it.
So you have a very interesting law enforcement background like myself. Tell me about that.
Former detective, high-tech crime unit detective, 15
Scotland Yard?
years, if only.
Oh,
no delusions of grandeur there.
Okay.
So I was in a force out in the east of the UK, Suffolk Constabulary, a bit more sleepy because bringing up children, as you do as a detective, you don't want to sort of raise them where you come from. So out there, back in the 90s, grew the high-tech crime units when the boom happened. Then, as it evolved, I decided to come forward and actually do a lot of work with the National High-Tech Crime Unit, now the National Crime Agencies. Was involved with lots of those. And also, as I left, I opened up a company in the UK where we wrote the actual government guidelines on forensic investigations.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I've interviewed several people from the UK, and my radio partner is from there. He was Scotland Yard, Bobby, and all that stuff. Yeah. And England has a much different approach. They focus on people's safety and security, and it's really more about integrating those things, and there's national policies. The United States is fortification. We're tough, fortified, we're going to keep you out. Yeah. Little different model. What do you think is the number one threat to our national security and safety?
So for me today, as I think the elephant in the room about the insider threat has been, it's really coming to its own. Insider threat has always been and still will remain to be the biggest threat.
That's what I say, right? And back in the day, nobody really thought that. They always thought fortification were keeping somebody out, and I always thought, no.
Correct.
I got to worry about the guy inside. And now I'm glad to hear people are more focused on that.
And coming from the side we talk about security, everybody has focused for many years on keeping people out, as you say, the fortified approach. You know, bounce them away. I've got the latest antivirus. I've got the latest, whatever it might be, to stop people getting in. We know people are getting in. But understanding what is going on in your network and your environment, understanding the depth of your risk through the investigation, the response process, is going to make the difference. You get that clarity and control over your data to start making the right informed decisions.
And there's billions and billions of attacks on networks now, in a day, right? And I was talking to Carl Herberger, Radware, smart guys, everybody knows him in the industry, right? And he said the problem is you might be under attack and not know it for a week. So what does Nuix do to help some of these challenges? Explain the process and what you do to contribute to the protection.
That's fantastic. So going back to the day, I remember myself and actually Kevin Mandy, I stood on a stage to Visa and MasterCard to become instant response companies. One of only 6 in the world back in 2005 and 2006.
Oh, that was early. Yeah.
So we were out there. So absolutely, like you, I was there with very, very large data breaches. People would throw a door open of a warehouse and say, we've been attacked.
Right.
What now? You know, so learning and understanding, and that's where Nuix has grown. It understands really monitoring, working out what's going on in your environment, whether it's a 300,000 known environment, whether it's putting up deception, whether it's seeing what people are putting in USBs, whether it's deflecting, whether it's responding, whether it's mediating, all the way down to being able to recover a deleted file off a mail server through the investigative visual approach we have to investigations. It's taking the old school digital forensic investigations and making it accessible to the outside world.
And you have an investigative background, so you get
very
that,
much.
Which is very interesting. Cops don't usually transition into that world. They should, right?
Well,
because they have the investigative
background.
Education. Right. And when I was back at the studios, I work closely with IT. And what IT used to tell me is, look, just tell me what button to push. Because I don't understand the people part. I don't understand what a bad guy is. I can code something. But you help me with catching the guy, anticipating behavior.
Correct.
So I assume that's what part of your role is, because you got a cop background and you kind of get that part. So IT and physical security have to work together on this stuff. Absolutely.
100%. It's a correlation of effort.
Right.
And when you look today with what Nuix does really well, it puts its hands around data, it absorbs it, ingests it, normalizes it, and allows you to do what you want.
Normalizes it's good word, because if there's too many ones and zeros, the investigator guy won't get it.
And the key bit that what I've tried to bring forward within Nuix, and we've really as a whole team pushed it, is how do I take ones and zeros of data and turn it into information that's relevant to the person sat in front of the screen. That process sounds simple, but that is where the years of investigativity, that is where our insider threat teams, our cyber threat analysis teams are watching the data on the conveyor belt after it's been normalized and go, that's interesting.
Oh, no,
I'm going to draw that out, and I'm going to put that prefetch file to that link file. So by the time it hits the screen, that work's already done. It's as if you're sat there with Nuix in front of you, and you've got 5 or 6 other subject matter experts in the background already got your back before it's even hit your screen.
I like that conveyor belt visual. That's
that
really
is
interesting.
The way,
Who's the end user at the lowest level that can understand that data? Would it be a guard?
Absolutely. So I actually have an 11-year-old son who is heavily into Minecraft who plays. My whole objective here is being able to take what we do with great complexity and allowing him to understand that things are going wrong.
Well, that's
through visuals, through colors,
right.
But knowing that if you want to right-click or drill into that, I can get to the ones and zeros.
Right.
So the forensic depth and integrity is still there.
I need the ones and zeros to prove
correct
the probable cause in the investigation. If you go criminal or even civil, I mean, you need that data. But to react and respond, you need the first responder guy who can take it and do something with it.
You gotcha. And that's the only way you start being proactive.
Right.
You start getting user behaviors. You start making baselines because you start understanding. And that's what Nuix does very well. And okay, so I've worked out that someone's run off with a USB. I've done a forensic investigation of their hard drive. Now I want to know on this 300,000 node network, where else has that USB been? When did that person door swipe? It's about correlating people, objects, locations, and events into the entire environment to tell a story about an event.
Now, when you say real time, define that for me.
Well,
common term or
common term,
mostly real time or what?
It's mostly real time.
Okay,
There's always a transition of data. It's not immediate.
But it's not a day.
Oh, no.
Okay.
It's seconds.
Because a day would be great for some systems, actually.
And it depends on the size. Yeah.
Right.
And it depends on what you're doing. If you're asking it to do very complex things before it alerts and make a lot of decisions towards the end point, which is happening, then the alerts will become, when they come through, but there will be more relevant alerts rather than, I could give you millions of, a lot of noise, just hitting you continuously. Where's the benefit in that? Now, it's instant noise. Right? But it's not, it's not a harmonious tune of noise that's coming to you that's actually relevant to you.
Is there machine learning in here or artificial intelligence, or is it a little different than that?
A little different from that.
Okay.
At the moment, it's baseline. Of course, what we have is an ability to show you all of this data. Very enriched data. The next logical step is putting machine learning, artificial intelligence across it, and making it learn, because it's not going incident, case. It's going across all the cases that have been down into your cases, across and correlating to other cases diagonally, and starting to say, okay, the next steps are, or if you put some proactive measures in here, there's a good likelihood you're going to stop that thing happening, because we've learned this is happening. Right. So that's why it makes a difference. But it does it all in a very nice, visual, approachable analyst mentality, rather than having to be black screen, green typing, and think that you're a super duper scripting guru.
So usually the IT guys are the guys that responded, which
Correct.
is problematic if they don't have a sense of urgency.
Yes.
And what's urgent to an IT guy might not be urgent to a physical security guy. And the studios back in the day when I worked there used to hire ex-cops because they understood the people piece and all that kind of thing, right? And then they migrated and said, no, we got to hire an IT guy who will handle IT and physical. Right. I think they're going back, not just studios, but other places are saying, you know what, I need a CISO and a CSO, and those two got to work because they're different disciplines. And and very few people can do both, very few.
Correct. Yeah. Their disciplines are so comparable, yet almost opposing in some stages, that they've got to be together, working together.
Well, and, IT is, this is secret squirrel password stuff, and police guys are kind of like, well, that's confidential, and you really got to work together on it. Yeah. So would Nuix be considered a really, really good relational database? Is that another way to look at it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But to forensic depth
I know that's putting
it at a very layman's term.
Yeah, very layman.
That's fine.
I got to explain it to my nieces and nephews who don't get it.
And that's absolutely right. Yeah. And I think the conveyor belt way is a great way of doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
All of the data that comes in the bucket, we will make sense of that for you. We'll draw the bits that are relevant. So if I come and, what 10 questions would I always want to ask of a USB drive, of an email, of a bit of code? All of those questions have already been. What
10 questions would you want to ask of a USB drive or flash? That's interesting. Correct. So I put it in computer A, and you see that on the network, and then that same flash drive starts winding up in 5 different computers.
Correct.
You guys know that. That's
Absolutely.
brilliant. As the British say, brilliant.
It's marvelous.
Marvelous.
So, but it's relevant.
Yeah,
the thing
relevant,
is,
right.
we're asking questions of data that is actually relevant to you as an end user. And that's the approach that's very different. It's not just, here's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Have all this stuff. Aren't we brilliant? Here's stuff. No. It's, we have a lot of information as we've correlated, we've put together. These are the questions that ordinarily you would ask, and they're being answered already. However, go ahead and ask what other questions you want.
And you can configure that to the end user so he knows, or well, actually the end user can say, listen, Jim, I only want this stuff right here.
Yep.
He sets up a filter. You set up a filter for him, right?
Absolutely.
Now, how do you price this stuff? You have to give me quotes, but I mean, is it modular? Is it per user? How is it?
So the way it spans out, we're addressing two markets, really.
Yep.
One being a very innovative, adaptive security marketplace. The other being a very forensically enriched base, sort of visualization capability of some of the other
two products within one, kind of.
But the key bit is it's all Nuix,
right?
Rather than other organisations that are a bit of this and they'll bolt on some of it. It's one company, and it's been designed from the ground up to be one thing. So that makes it very unique. So pricing that is very different because we're addressing different markets.
Okay.
So at the moment it's a bit premature to talk about how much this thing is going to be, but clearly all of the above are being evaluated.
Not how much, but it's modular, so to speak.
Absolutely.
You have two modules. Okay.
And it's completely, and it's evaluated because you're absolutely right. There will be times where people want it by a user base. There'll be times where people want it by a node base pricing. Right. There'll be times where they want the entire thing pricing. So all of those, we're working with certain customers and seeing how that works with them, what's relevant, how the framework could actually be put together so that everybody can benefit from it. You don't have to be a multi-gazillion-dollar organization.
Right, exactly.
Because actually, someone in the middle of the chain could benefit from this.
Well, that's
so they
important.
Don't get compromised.
I mean, we know about bring your own device and how 85% of breaches are from your private cell phone, because when I go home, I don't really care about all that password stuff, right?
Yep.
And those are medium-sized companies, and they can't afford $100 million like Cisco can, right? Exactly. So it's good that a product like this is getting into a user market that really may stop a lot of the breaches, because the big boys have their plugs in place, right? Interesting. Yeah. Jim, been fascinating.
It's been great.
Give us your website.
Thank you. It's nuix.com.
All right.
Very simple. Everything's there. It's some very compelling stories and videos.
Oh, great.
About where we've come from and where we're going.
All right, Nuix.com. Thanks for coming on Security Guy Radio.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.